My boss fired me after 10 years without notice, but I knew something they didn't know. My name is Megan Hayes, and I'm 34. Until exactly a month ago, I was the account manager at Innovate Solutions, a fast-growing technology consulting firm located in a modern office building in downtown Denver, Colorado. 10 years, a full decade since I first walked in as a 24-year-old fresh out of college, bright-eyed with enthusiasm and big dreams. Innovate Solutions isn't just a place to make a living. It's my flesh and blood, my second family, a place where I've poured not only my blood, tears, but also my weekends and postponed vacations. I'm single, live in a small, nearly paid-off apartment on Capitol Hill, and my life has revolved around this job for the past 10 years. And yet it all ended with a cold call over the intercom system. "Megan, come into my office for a moment." The voice of David Sterling, my executive vice president, my direct boss, and my former mentor, rang out, dry and unnervingly unfamiliar. A bad feeling rose in my chest. He rarely used that tone with me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart, and walked toward his large corner office. A room with polished walnut floors, expensive modern furniture, and a huge wall of glass that overlooked the majestic, snow-capped Rocky Mountains. A scene I knew by heart, having seen countless times over the past 10 years, through scorching suns, heavy snows, and late nights. Sterling sat silently behind his imposing teak desk, his blue-gray eyes avoiding my gaze, fixed instead on the dark computer screen. The air in the room was thick with an unusual tension. "Please sit down, Megan," he said softly, gesturing to the armchair opposite. I sat down, my back straight, trying to maintain a professional appearance despite the turmoil inside me. Was something serious happening? Was there a problem with the Quantum Corp project? Was it a customer complaint? Sterling cleared his throat, clasping his hands together on the table. "Megan," he began, his voice flat and emotionless. "As you know, the technology market is changing rapidly. To maintain our competitive edge, the company is undergoing a major restructuring aimed at optimizing operational efficiency and cutting unnecessary costs." He paused as if to catch his breath. I waited silently, my instincts telling me something bad was about to happen. "In that context," he continued, finally glancing at me briefly before dropping his eyes again, "the board has had to make some difficult decisions, and we regret to inform you that your position as head of customer relations is no longer part of the new organization. This decision is effective immediately." Immediately? No longer relevant? After 10 years of dedication? My ears rang. My throat was dry, unable to utter a word. 10 years of loyal service, the million-dollar contracts I had brought in, the client relationships I had worked so hard to cultivate, especially with Quantum Corp, the company's largest strategic client, all for these cold, emotionless words? No warning, no justification other than the empty excuse of restructuring. And then, as if that wasn't enough of a shock, I noticed another figure sitting silently on the sofa in the corner of the room. Someone I hadn't noticed when I entered. Jessica Vance. The young employee who had been with the company for only 2 years, who had always been overly adept and ambitious. She sat there, arms crossed over her chest, trying to keep a straight face, but I could see a barely concealed smile of satisfaction playing at the corners of her lips. It all became painfully clear. This was not a restructuring. This was a purge, and I was the target. The initial numbness passed, replaced by an undercurrent of anger and the pain of blatant betrayal that rose in my chest. Sterling, the man I had once considered a mentor, the one who had guided me through my first steps. Jessica, whose petty schemes I had tried to ignore. They had joined forces to get me out of here. Did he think that firing me would be the end of it? He and Jessica must have planned it carefully, celebrating their quiet victory. But there was something fatal they didn't know. Something extremely important. A shocking secret that I had stumbled upon just a few weeks ago. A secret that could blow up the entire company and their careers. 10 years ago, I was just a 24-year-old fresh graduate of the University of Denver, majoring in business administration, entering the competitive corporate world. Innovate Solutions was a young but promising technology consulting firm, and David Sterling, with his confident demeanor and strategic vision, immediately made a strong impression on me during the interview. I saw in him the image of a talented leader, an ideal mentor. I threw myself into the job with all the eagerness and determination of youth, wanting to learn, wanting to contribute, wanting to prove my worth, and I did. From a lowly customer support staff position, I worked tirelessly, learned every day, and was promoted to customer relations specialist, team leader, and finally, 4 years ago, I officially became the customer relations manager, responsible for managing the company's largest and most important accounts. Throughout that journey, I have not shied away from hardship. I have pulled many sleepless nights to complete complex project proposals. I have flown hundreds of flights to meet, convince, and retain clients. I have missed countless vacations, dates, and gatherings with friends because work always came first. I truly believed in the mission of Innovate Solutions, the values the company pursued, and the leadership of Sterling. This place has become my life, my pride. My biggest achievement in my career at Innovate Solutions was securing and maintaining the Quantum Corp contract 5 years ago. Quantum Corp is a technology giant, and being their strategic consulting partner has taken Innovate Solutions to new heights, providing a steady revenue stream that accounts for 30-40% of the company's total annual revenue. I have been directly in charge of this account from the beginning, building an extremely good partnership and trust with Ms. Evans, Quantum's CIO, a professional and very demanding woman. The current contract with Quantum Core is coming up at the end of this quarter, and successfully negotiating a renewal is considered a vital task for Innovate Solutions, especially in the context of the market slowing down. And I, Megan Hayes, was tasked with leading this important negotiation. Things started to get complicated about 2 years ago, when Jessica Vance was hired to work on my team. Jessica was almost a decade younger than me, a graduate of a prestigious university, very energetic and good-looking. At first, I tried to guide her and facilitate her development, but I soon realized that behind that sweet and enthusiastic exterior was a burning ambition and, at times, a less than transparent way of doing things. Jessica was very good at polishing herself. She often found ways to report small achievements directly to Sterling, sometimes intentionally ignoring me. In group projects, she always knew how to make her contributions stand out, and skillfully took the most credit. I also heard some whispers in the office about Jessica staying late working with Sterling, about private lunches or the somewhat intimate gestures between the two of them. I tried to push away negative thoughts, telling myself that I shouldn't be jealous or suspicious, that I needed to focus on the main job. But a vague sense of insecurity grew inside me, especially when Sterling began to show obvious favoritism to Jessica, assigning her more important projects despite her lack of experience. And then, the shocking secret was revealed. About 2 months before my firing, as I was carefully preparing documents and analytical reports for my final review meeting with Quantum Corp, a crucial meeting before the start of contract renewal negotiations, I stumbled upon a very serious problem. While searching for an old technical report on the company's shared storage server, I stumbled upon an unusually hidden subfolder. Inside was an internal email chain between Sterling, the head of engineering, and several key engineers dating back several months. The content of the emails sent a chill down my spine. They discussed the discovery of a serious security vulnerability in the custom software platform that Innovate Solutions had developed and deployed for Quantum Corp years ago. The vulnerability, if exploited, could have allowed a malicious actor to access and steal a large amount of Quantum's highly sensitive customer data. But what shocked me most was not the existence of the vulnerability. Technical risks are always possible, but Sterling's response. In subsequent emails, Sterling explicitly instructed that the vulnerability be patched in a temporary, crude manner and that the true extent of the problem be kept secret from Quantum Corp, at least until after the multi-million-dollar contract renewal. His reasoning was that the cost of a full fix would be prohibitive, would impact the company's quarterly profits, and more importantly, he feared that if Quantum learned the truth, they would lose trust and cancel the contract immediately. I was stunned when I read those lines. This was a blatant act of customer deception, a serious violation of business ethics, and could have had dire consequences for Quantum Corp if the vulnerability were exploited. My professional conscience would not allow me to remain silent. I tried to meet with Sterling privately, presented the problem as tactfully as possible, expressed my deep concern about the potential risks, and suggested that Quantum be transparent. But Sterling brushed it off. He said it was just a minor technical issue, that the engineering team had it under control, and told me not to worry too much, to focus on the most important task of keeping Quantum happy and securing a contract extension. Sterling's evasive attitude, his slightly threatening tone, "Don't make things worse, Megan, just do your job," made me realize that he was never going to change his mind. He was determined to hide the truth at all costs. Immediately after that conversation, my instincts told me to act quickly. I went back to my computer and quietly backed up the entire email chain and technical reports related to the vulnerability to an encrypted personal hard drive. I knew I was holding a ticking time bomb. And perhaps because I knew so much, because I could pose a threat to his cover-up plan, I was a target for elimination. Appointing Jessica, the more junior and pliable, to replace me was clearly part of that plan. That afternoon, after being unceremoniously fired from Sterling, I was told to pack my things and leave the office immediately. An HR person and a security guard stood guard over me as if I were a criminal, making sure I didn't take anything belonging to the company, other than the few personal items in a cardboard box. Humiliation and anger rose in my throat. I tried to keep my composure, said goodbye to a few close colleagues who looked at me with pity and sympathy, and quietly left the building I had called home for a decade. As I sat behind the wheel on the way back to my apartment, the initial numbness faded, giving way to a storm of mixed emotions. The pain of betrayal by a boss I had once respected. The anger at Sterling and Jessica's unfair and manipulative behavior. The confusion and fear about the future. Losing a job at 34, especially this sudden, would be a black mark on my resume. How would I pay my monthly bills, my apartment mortgage? My main source of income had been cut off in an instant. I returned to my small apartment, slammed the door shut, and finally let the tears fall. I cried for 10 years of dedication denied, for my faith trampled, for the uncertain future ahead. But in the midst of that chaos and despair, another thought began to dawn, growing clearer and stronger. The thought of the encrypted hard drive sitting safely in my bag. Inside it was more than just emails and technical reports. Inside it was the truth. Proof of Sterling's deception. A bombshell that could destroy their plans. At first, the thought was just revenge. I wanted them to pay for what they had done to me. But gradually, as the initial anger subsided, the cold calculation of a manager began to emerge. They had not fired me just because they wanted to replace Jessica. They had fired me because I knew too much, because my very existence was a potential threat to their plan to cover up their crimes at Quantum Corp. They had underestimated me. They thought that I, a woman pushed into a corner, would just cry, accept a meager severance package, which I certainly would not sign any non-disclosure agreement with, and disappear from their lives. They were dead wrong. The secret I held was now more than a burden on my conscience. It had become my only weapon. I decided not to act hastily. I needed time to think, to calm down, and to make a careful plan. I accepted the minimal severance package that HR sent me, a mere month's salary, a real insult. But I didn't sign any papers that required me to remain silent or waive my right to sue. I turned off my company phone, returned my laptop, and gave up my access card. I pretty much disappeared from the world of Innovate Solutions. In the weeks that followed, I tried to stay busy. I cleaned my apartment, reorganized my life, began updating my resume, and quietly searched for new opportunities. But my thoughts were always with Innovate Solutions, with Sterling, with Jessica, and especially with Quantum Corp. I knew I couldn't stay silent. It wasn't just about the job I'd lost. It was about my work ethic and the safety of the clients I'd served so well. Fortunately, I was not alone in this silent battle. Ben Carter, a gentle, quiet, but extremely skilled IT technician at Innovate Solutions, had secretly contacted me. Ben was in his 30s and quite quiet, but I knew he was a good guy. I had helped him with a difficult project before, and he seemed to like me. Ben also disliked Sterling, and especially Jessica, whom he considered fake and empty. Ben became my eyes and ears in the company. He would occasionally send me coded messages or call me from an unknown number in the evening to update me on the situation. And what Ben told me only strengthened my resolve. Jessica, as I had predicted, was completely struggling with managing the Quantum Corp account. She lacked the hands-on experience, the deep understanding of complex client needs, and most importantly, the tact and sincerity in communication that I had worked so hard to develop with Ms. Evans. Ben reported that the phone calls and emails between Jessica and Ms. Evans became increasingly tense. Ms. Evans, who was extremely astute, began to grow suspicious and impatient with Jessica's lack of professionalism and her roundabout answers to technical questions. Meanwhile, Sterling was growing increasingly stressed and irritable. His contract renewal with Quantum Corp was approaching, only about 3 weeks away. The pressure to keep the vulnerability a secret was mounting. Ben overheard Sterling yelling into the phone at his engineering team, demanding that they speed up the temporary patch and make sure nothing leaked before the deadline. Hearing the news, I knew I had a powerful lever. If Quantum Corp, and especially Ms. Evans, who had always put security and quality first, had learned about the serious vulnerability before they signed the multi-million-dollar contract renewal, the consequences would have been unimaginably disastrous for Innovate Solutions. Not only would they almost certainly cancel the renewal, they could also sue for massive damages for the deception and potential risks. Innovate Solutions' reputation, built on trust and expertise, would have been completely destroyed in the technology industry. Sterling, as the person most responsible and the person who had personally directed the cover-up, would have lost his job and faced legal consequences. Jessica, who was in charge of the account and clearly incompetent, would have been implicated as well. I considered my options. I could use this information to blackmail Sterling into paying me a large sum of money or reinstating me. But the thought was quickly dismissed. It would be illegal and completely against my core values. I also did not want to go straight to the press or the board of directors. That would expose me to a countersuit for violating confidentiality, even though I had already been fired, and could harm the remaining innocent colleagues at the company. No, my goal is not blatant personal revenge or personal gain. My goal is truth and justice. I want Sterling and Jessica to be held accountable for their wrongdoing. And more importantly, I want Quantum Corp, a client I once respected, not to be put in jeopardy by Innovate Solutions' deception. The best plan, I thought, was to ensure that this important information reached the right people, Ms. Evans and possibly Quantum Corp or's legal department, at the most critical time, just before the contract renewal was scheduled to be signed. The information would need to be delivered discreetly, perhaps anonymously, so that they could investigate and make their own decisions while minimizing my own legal risk. The golden opportunity came when there were only 2 days left until the final meeting between the Innovate Solutions leadership and senior representatives of Quantum Corp, including Ms. Evans, to officially sign the contract extension. Ben had secretly informed me of the exact date, time, and location of this important meeting. That night, I sat at my computer in my quiet apartment, my heart beating faster than usual. I took a deep breath and focused on my plan. First, I used a secure email service to create a temporary, completely anonymous email address that had nothing to do with my name or personal information. Next, I composed an email that was short, concise, and to the point. I didn't mention my name, my firing, or any personal grudges. The email was written in the tone of an anonymous insider concerned about ethics and the client's best interests. Dear Ms. Evans and Quantum Corp Legal Department, I'm writing anonymously to alert you to a potential serious security risk associated with the software platform provided by Innovate Solutions and used by your company. According to reliable internal information I have, there is a security vulnerability in the system that could be exploited to gain unauthorized access to sensitive data of your company and customers. What is more worrying is that Innovate Solutions' senior management has known about the problem for months, but has deliberately concealed the true severity and only implemented temporary fixes to secure an upcoming contract renewal. To enable you to assess the level of risk for yourself, I have attached some relevant internal documents, including the directive email exchanges and the original technical report. I believe that transparency and data security are key elements in any partnership. I hope this information will be helpful to your company in making an informed decision. Sincerely, a caring person. I reread the email several times, scrutinizing every word. Then I attached the evidence files carefully backed up from the encrypted hard drive, a copy of Sterling's covert email chain, the original technical report detailing the vulnerability and its severity. Finally, I selected Ms. Evans's work email address, which I knew she checked regularly, as the recipient and CC'd the Quantum Corp, legal department's general email address. I took a deep breath and hit send. The email went out around 10 p.m. Denver time, early enough for them to read and review the next morning before the signing meeting, but late enough for Sterling and Innovate Solutions to be caught off guard or blocked. I turned off my computer, feeling a strange mixture of excitement and relief. The bomb had been set off. Now all I had to do was wait and see how it would go off. The next morning, I tried to stay calm, doing my usual things like reading the news and sending out a few resumes. Around noon, my phone buzzed with an encrypted text message from Ben. "Storm sisters, Quantum just canceled the contract signing at the last minute. They called another emergency meeting just to talk about serious security issues. Sterling and Jessica were pale, running around the office like ducks. The phone was ringing. Looks like the news got to them." I read Ben's message, a cold but satisfied smile on my face. The wheels of justice had begun to turn. What happened next was even quicker and more dramatic than I expected. With irrefutable evidence in hand, it didn't take long for Quantum Corp to act. They immediately hired an independent cybersecurity audit firm to conduct an emergency review of the system provided by Innovate Solutions. The audit confirmed the information in the anonymous email. The vulnerability was real, extremely serious, and had been deliberately concealed. Quantum Corp's leadership was furious. They realized they had almost been cheated out of a deal worth tens of millions of dollars, putting sensitive company and customer data at risk. The trust in Innovate Solutions, built over the past 5 years, had been completely destroyed in a single day. Quantum Corp not only officially announced the termination of all contract renewal negotiations, but also stated that it is considering all necessary legal actions to seek compensation for damages caused by Innovate Solutions for its fraudulent and negligent conduct. The loss of the huge Quantum Corp contract was a devastating blow to Innovate Solutions. News of the scandal, despite the party's best efforts to keep it under wraps, quickly leaked out into the tech industry, perhaps in part at Quantum's initiative or through disgruntled insiders. The parent company's stock plummeted. Other clients began to raise questions and concerns. Innovate Solutions was plunged into a deep financial and reputational crisis. The parent company's board of directors was forced to intervene forcefully to control the situation. The result was inevitable. David Sterling was forced to resign immediately and in disgrace. His decades-long career ended in disgrace. All his past achievements were wiped out by a single bad decision and an unethical cover-up. Jessica Vance, an accomplice, or at least a tool in Sterling's scheme, was not spared either. As the person directly in charge of the Quantum account at the time of the scandal, combined with her incompetence and possibly suspicions of her role in the cover-up, Jessica was also unceremoniously fired just days later. Her dreams of a rapid rise through underhanded means were dashed. Sterling and Jessica paid a heavy price for their actions. They lost their jobs, their reputations in the industry, and may face lengthy civil lawsuits from Quantum Corp or even Innovate Solutions itself. The bitter taste of betrayal and greed has finally caught up with them. 6 months had passed since the bomb I had set off. I had followed the news of Innovate Solutions' struggles, of Sterling and Jessica's passing, from afar, through articles in business magazines and Ben's own words. My emotions were mixed. There was an undeniable sense of satisfaction at seeing justice served, of wrongdoers facing consequences. But there was also a tinge of sadness, thinking about the place I had once worked for, and the good colleagues still struggling in the mess. But I didn't let myself dwell on the past. My life had turned around, and it was much brighter. After several months of searching and careful consideration, I received a job offer from a larger technology company, a formidable competitor of Innovate Solutions. They not only valued my extensive experience managing large clients, but were also particularly impressed by my work ethic and integrity. Perhaps the story of the Innovate scandal and my role as an anonymous whistleblower had somehow reached their ears. My new position was Senior Director of Business Development, with a significantly better salary and benefits package than before. I've settled back into my life. My apartment is still as cozy as ever, but it's filled with a new, more positive energy. The wound from Sterling's betrayal may never fully heal, but it no longer hurts. It no longer controls me. I've learned to forgive, not him, but myself so I can move on. I'm stronger, wiser, and definitely better able to protect myself in the complex world of work. One afternoon, I received a brief email from Ms. Evans at Quantum Corp. She didn't mention the anonymous email or the security breach. She just wrote that she was sorry to hear that I had left Innovate Solutions and wished me the best in my new job. It was a simple note, but to me it felt like a silent acknowledgement, a discreet thank you. And that was enough. 10 years of loyalty can be wiped out in a minute by betrayal and greed. But truth, integrity, and self-worth cannot be taken away from you. They thought firing me was the end of my career, a way to shut me up. Little did they know that action was just the beginning of their own downfall and the beginning of a new, brighter chapter in my life. I lost a job I loved, but I found myself again, stronger and freer than ever. Loyalty at work is a valuable virtue, but sometimes it is not rewarded properly, even taken advantage of and trampled upon. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a situation where you were treated unfairly, betrayed after many years of dedication to an organization or a leader? And if you happen to hold a secret, a truth that can cause great harm to the company that has treated you badly, how would you choose to act? Stay silent, confront directly, or find another way to make justice happen? Please share your views and stories.